Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between. Jackie's got a sports show, and you are tuning in to that very sports show for the first time in a couple of weeks because I could not get any sleep doing this in the month of December. How you doing? I feel like the uncle hasn't seen you in a while. You've gotten so big. Gotten so big. Look at you. I still look like a wreck. How you doing? How was your past couple weeks? How was Christmas? Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy New Year's. If you're gonna do anything big for that, me and the lady are gonna go over to her grandmother's house. She really wants to cook us something. How was Christmas for y'all? How do you plan New Year's to be? Are you gonna watch some college football playoffs on New Year's? We'll get into that later, of course. But happy to be back. Happy to be back. If you were, following and listening to the podcast, you knew that I wasn't getting sleep. Period. Point blank period. I was not getting sleep while trying to do this, working on the overtime I was working and everything else going on in my life. I just could not do it. So we're back. We're here. And I don't know if it's going to go back to a daily show, especially with the NFL kind of slowing down. However, I'm getting a lot into wrestling. That might help make it a daily show, or at least more days than, one or two. So we'll see. Stay with me. At the very least, you will get an episode every Thursday, as you are doing right now. Like I said, Jackie's got a sports show. I appreciate you tuning into that sports show. On this episode of this sports show, we're going to talk some basketball, some Pistons, some Grizzlies, some Kevin Durant. Then we're going to talk some NFL football and end the show with some college football. Bowl season starting up and the college football playoffs kicking off this Monday. So let's get right into it. And I want to mention, how's y'all's fantasy football leagues gone? How'd it go? How was your season? In most of my leagues, I sucked, which I do every year. But in one of my leagues, they messed around and they gave me Tyreek Hill. They gave me Debo Samuel. They're an IDP league. For those of you who don't know, that's individual defensive player. It's not like total. You don't get a defensive team unit. You know what I'm saying? And they gave me TJ Watt, who scored 30 plus points several times. So did Max Crosby. I had a squad. First seed, and I lost in the first round. Golly, dude. Come on. None of my team showed up last week. None of them. Not Tyreek, not Tua, not Bijan, not Devon Chain, however you say his name. None of those guys. None of them showed up, which sunk my team, and I am still championship-less. Decade of playing college football, decade of playing fantasy football, no championships to speak of. I suck. I did for Christmas I'd do a family league with my grandfather, some cousins, some brothers. We do a family league, and I was able to buy a championship belt, which is pretty sick, which I'm pretty happy about. But let me know what y'all thought or how y'all's fantasy teams went. All my socials will either be in the description, or if you want to wait till after the show, I will tell you all of them at the end of the show. So let's get right into some basketball talk. Pistons historic losing streak. The Pistons are not only bad this year like they are pretty much every year of my life outside of the Ben Wallace era, they are historically bad, historically awful. And you gotta wonder, what is it in Detroit that makes them so bad? The Lions have snapped their losing streak. Lions are cool. I don't know what's really going on with the Tigers, the Detroit Tigers in the MLB. And in the NHL, the Red Wings were a dynasty in the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were a dynasty. What is it with the Pistons that makes them so bad? So bad, dude. Because for all my life, outside of the Ben Wallace era, the Pistons have been the worst team in the NBA. If not the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NBA. They've been rebuilding for over a decade, close to 2 decades. Not close. Well, it's getting there. It's higher than 15 years, so it's getting there. You can round up to 2 decades. Why are the Pistons this bad? And it's not like they've had talentless teams. They've had talented teams. They have talented core. They have talented core. little Borat thing, American Borat. They have a talented core. So what is going on? Is it coaching? Is it the culture in Detroit? Is it the training regimen in Detroit? Is it the fact they live in Detroit? What is going on? What is going on with the Pistons? Because a rebuild should not last over a decade, and yet it is. This rebuild, ever since Ben Wallace retired, has been ongoing, ongoing, and ongoing. Let me know what y'all think, because this is ridiculous. It was funny, and it's funny to have a little punching bag at the bottom of the league. They are the Browns of the NBA. It's fun, but at least now the Browns are in the playoffs. The Browns, I don't think they've won the AFC North in a while, but they've been close. The Pistons have not been close in a while. What is good? Now to the Grizzlies. John Morant retired. John Morant came back from his 20 plus game suspension and went off against the Pelicans, 34, 9 and something, and has pretty much averaged 30 points, I think 7 assists and like 4 or 5 rebounds since he came back. Ja is going off. The Grizzlies offense looks so much better with him, which we all knew it was. And the Grizzlies are just playing better. Now, everybody, when Ja came back, was like, oh, the Grizzlies are in a massive hole that I don't know if they can fight back from. But now they've won like 3, 4 straight. They've won 3, 4 straight. And they look like a real basketball team again. They look like a good basketball team again. Now, like I said, a lot of people were like, oh, are they really going to be able to make the playoffs? Are they really going to be able to even make a play-in game? I don't know. Right now, they'd be out. They're a couple games out, but we haven't hit All-Star break yet. And if they heat up, if they get heated right before the All-Star break and they just carry that momentum to where they're going on, you know, 7, 8, 9 game winning streaks, even like 5, 6, 7 game winning streaks, here we go. Here comes the Grizzlies. Do I think they're contenders? No. They don't have a solid big man. They don't. Outside of Jaren Jackson Jr., which I don't think he plays center all that often, they don't have a big man that is like, oh yeah, no, he put him in the middle and it's over. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that. Steven Adams is out for the year. Brandon Clark is always hurt. So they really need that to be a serious contender. They really need to look into that in the offseason if, Steven Adams can, because this isn't the first time Steven Adams is hurt and has left a giant hole in the middle of that Grizzlies team. But do I think that they can be a play-in team now? Absolutely. Because Ja is going off and they are looking like a real basketball team again. And Kevin Durant. Apparently, Kevin Durant is fed up with Phoenix already. Because what does Kevin Durant do? Kevin Durant goes into a team, starts to win, and as soon as the team either struggles or he doesn't like the narrative around the team, he's going to force his way out. He's a better version of James Harden. He's a better version of James Harden. Why do I think he's a better version? Because at least he's won titles. At least he's considered, like a top 15 player of all time. James Harden is not. James Harden is not. And James Harden and Kevin Durant still can play at you know, better than all-star levels. James Harden can give you some all-star performances, but James Harden catching strays right now. What do I think about this? It's Kevin Durant. Were we really expecting anything different? Were we really expecting anything different? Everybody was coming out. The Suns are, West favorites. The Sun, yeah, they get some depth when they traded in that DeAndre Ayton trade. They get a much needed depth, but that roster is still very top heavy. And with Bradley Beal being out, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's not like the Suns are winning games and Kevin Durant is asking. No, they're losing games. I'm not entirely sure of their overall record. I know it's not what they expected it to be. I know the Suns are not, this is the team in the West to beat. So everything is getting hard. Now Kevin Durant wants to burn it down. Now, That is if these rumors are true. I haven't really seen anything denying that the rumors are true, but the rumors are Kevin Durant is fed up with the Suns already. Already. And we could all see this coming. We could all see this coming, and it's just a matter of time before he is out of Phoenix. And honestly, I'm so done with the headache of Kevin Durant. Even as a casual basketball fan, every time I peek my head in, it's always Kevin Durant complaining about something on his own team. So that's it with basketball. Let me know what stories I should keep up with, what storylines I should keep up with. Obviously, the NFL season coming to an end. Super Bowl is pretty much a month away. And that means I'm going to dive into basketball, or I'm going to get into the USFL for a couple of weeks. USFL, XFL. I'm going to look into that because I know they did some merger or something. I will have pretty much an entire episode dedicated to what you need to know about that. And we're going to dive into basketball a lot more, especially post All-Star break. And I'm getting, like I said, I don't know if I said this in this in this take, but I'm getting heavy into wrestling, and I'm watching it every week. So we might talk about that a lot. Jackie, it's not a sport. Shut up. Grow up. Let's talk about football. Two real matchups that I really kept up with that I think have massive implications. The first being the Ravens over the 49ers, 33-19, and this has massive implications on the MVP race. Brock Purdy throwing 4 interceptions, and if you just box score watch, you're like, oh my God, that's awful. I'm telling you right now, one of those was his fault. Uno. One of those was his fault, not four. Not three, not two, one of them. One of them, he just trusted his arm too much, and he threw a pick to Kyle Hamilton. That's what I feel like happened. He trusted his arm too much. Kyle Hamilton got a pick, and that was his first interception. And then it was a bunch of tipped balls, bunch of, the Ravens defense making great plays, and his receivers straight up dropping it. Straight up dropping the ball. But Lamar showed up in a massive way. A lot of Lamar haters love to say, oh, defense, offensive line, yada, yada, yada. Lamar showed up in a massive way. Lamar showed up in a massive way, in a way that Brock Purdy hasn't shown up against a great team. Dak Prescott has not shown up against a great team. He had a good game against the Eagles, but that's pretty much it. Jalen Hurts has not shown up against a great team. They just haven't. And if they have, it was not on the level that Lamar Jackson has continued to show up against great teams this season. This should put Lamar in the front runner position for MVP, especially if they beat the Dolphins convincingly, in which I think they will. We'll talk about it in a second. They beat the Dolphins convincingly and Lamar goes off. Lamar's the MVP. Now, that goes into the conversation that is heating up right now saying, the MVP being a quarterback only award is stupid. I can hear you out because Christian McCaffrey is very valuable to the 49ers. So is Tyreek Hill. Tua does not look like the same quarterback without Tyreek Hill. That's not a knock on Tua. That's pretty much everybody. Patrick Mahomes didn't look the same without Tyreek Hill. Josh Allen is not going to look the same without Stephon Diggs. Kyler Murray is probably not going to look the same without DeAndre Hopkins, but they're still good quarterbacks. They're still going to play great. It's just you lose your number one receiver unless you are some all-time Hall of Fame historic talent. You're going to look different, which I know a lot of people say about Patrick Mahomes, and I guess that's a stupid statement, so let's just push through. But Christian McCaffrey, if you take him off the 49ers, are they really that much worse? Let's be honest here. Are the 49ers worse or that much worse with Elijah Mitchell rather than Christian McCaffrey? I don't think so. And that's not a knock on Christian McCaffrey. That's just the 49ers being so well built that you take just one player off that team isn't affected. I think it affects them. I think it does affect them. But is it to the point where their record is drastically different? I don't think so. Maybe they have one or two more losses, but they still have the NFC North title, right? So it's not like you take Christian McCaffrey off the 49ers and it's no man's land, right? Same thing with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is putting up great numbers, but here's my thing. Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown and almost broke Megatron's record and was not considered for MVP. So why should Tyreek Hill? I get if he hit 2K, sure. But he doesn't lead the league in reception touchdowns. He doesn't lead the league in receptions. And Cooper Kupp led the league in both of those and almost broke Megatron's record. And I was not hearing a peep of MVP for Cooper Kupp. That's just the facts. Why should I give it to Tyreek? Why does Tyreek have a say at all right now? To be honest, he doesn't have a shot for 2K anymore. He doesn't. He missed too many games. He had too many down games and missed too many games. So why? And the reason I'm going so heavy on this is because I know people on TikTok and on Twitter who are like, oh yeah, no, it is Tyreek Hill's award. Tyreek Hill is the MVP. Why? Why? He leads the league in yards? Cool. Like I said, Cooper Kupp led in receptions, yards, and touchdowns and almost broke Megatron's record. And not a peep for MVP. But Tyreek Hill, it's his to lose. Are you serious? It's Lamar Jackson's trophy right now. I know we hate to admit it. The quarterback is the most important position on the field, the most valuable position on the field. So unless we have a year where every quarterback in the league is getting is just playing like trash, or unless we get a record-breaking season where, say, Tyreek Hill gets the Triple Crown and breaks the record and breaks Megatron's record, I'll give him the MVP. Sure. But right now, it is Lamar Jackson's to lose, because if you take Lamar Jackson off the Baltimore Ravens, at the beginning of the season, the Baltimore Ravens may have 4 wins. 4 wins, and that's because of the defense. Let's stop playing around with this. So let's move on to Rams. Let's move on to Rams and Saints. I was really interested in this because the Rams could be a little sleeper. The Rams have a very explosive offense, and I want you all to think about this. They have put up 30 plus points this entire month outside of one game, and they put up 28 that game. The Rams offense is an explosive offense. Not only that, they have that passing attack with Puka Nacua. Tyler Higbee's a good tight end. You got Cooper Kupp down there. But they can run the ball. Kyren Williams has been a pleasant surprise for the Los Angeles Rams this season. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball, and they have one of the greatest offensive minds in the game currently. The 4 greatest offensive minds in the league right now. Andy Reid, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean McVay. That's the 4 guys. That's the 4 horsemen of offense in the NFL right now. And their defense does not play bad. Their defense isn't as great as it was, in the Super Bowl year, but it's still a good defense. And the Rams are playing well enough to sneak into the playoffs. And I would not be shocked if they upset like a Cowboys team, like an Eagles team. I wouldn't be shocked. This Rams team is one of those teams where you're like, if they get into the playoffs, I don't know. It could happen. For the Saints, they really needed this game to keep up with the Buccaneers. They are playing the Buccaneers this weekend. We'll get into it. They are playing the Buccaneers this weekend to try to keep up in the NFC South race, but they really needed this win, and this is just stamping home my most disappointing team of 2023. The New Orleans Saints, who I thought Derek Carr is going to go in there, and I was like, oh, if y'all remember, Derek Carr was an MVP candidate back in 2016. Raiders had like 11 wins, and Derek Carr broke his leg and didn't get the MVP. It sucks. And it sucks, but Derek Carr's going to return to that. He's got Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Taysom Hill is that little Swiss Army knife. Jamal Williams is back there. Juwan Johnson, that tight end, he's a very solid piece. Rashid Shaheed was developing as a solid deep threat, and the defense is great. And nope. And you can say, "Oh, the defense, took some injuries." That was well after this team was already seen as the most disappointing team of 2023. I'm very, very disappointed in the Saints, and it really, really, really sucks. Now, some other storylines that I found interesting. Lions clinched the North for the first time in 30 years. Clap, clap. It really seems like the entire league is rooting for the Lions. The rest of the NFC North kind of sucks. I said that the Vikings were still there, and I think if Kirk Cousins was healthy, it would be a bigger conversation on who wins the NFC North. But, that's what happens in the NFL. To win, you need to be great. You need to have a little luck. The Lions were great, and the Lions got a little luck. The Broncos' playoff dreams fall to Bailey Zappi, and now Russell Wilson is benched. And originally, when I heard Russell Wilson was benched, I was like, "Oh, we'll see, like, truly why. Maybe they just want to wait till next season and, whatever." But Sean Payton literally said, "No, we want a spark on offense." So, so it's not looking great. They're paying him a lot of money, and now he's sitting on the bench. And I don't know how big that dead cap will be if they cut him or trade him next season. But that Seahawks trade is looking poorly. By the way, I saw someone say, "Oh, this Seahawks Broncos trade is awful for both teams," and they were like, "Oh, Devin Witherspoon was the only good piece." It's like Charles Cross is on there too, or Charles Clay, the tackle for the Seahawks that plays pretty well. Don't disrespect my boy like that. Don't disrespect my boy like that. Eagles keep leaving the door open and the Cowboys do not walk through. Now, the Eagles won this past week. Cowboys did not. Cowboys could not take care of the Dolphins. I forgot and the Eagles took care of the Giants, the Tommy DeVito Giants, which, by the way, my entire absence, I completely missed on the podcast. I was keeping up with it, but on the podcast, I completely missed the rise and fall of Tommy DeVito. And that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad. I mean, he was just, another backup quarterback that was getting hyped up, but it was kind of fun because he was Italian, although he got sick of it. But I put this because all the Eagles had to do was win out and they would be NFC East champions. And they lost. I believe they lost twice. Or no, they lost once. And then the Cowboys lost. And they kept holding the door open for the Cowboys to pull ahead and get the NFC East title. And the Cowboys just kept stumbling. Now the Cowboys are on a free fall, and their matchup this Saturday is going to be interesting because of that. Speaking of the matchups that I am going to be paying the most attention to outside of the Titans and Texans, got to watch it because I'm a Titans fan. Lions and Cowboys this Saturday. And this matchup is interesting just because they're both teams that show that they can show up in big ways and also collapse in big ways. The Lions have had multiple collapses this season, and so have the Cowboys. It's going to be interesting. Which team is going to rise? Which team is going to collapse? Now, the matchup I'm looking at, obviously, Ravens-Dolphins. I think the Ravens take care of this pretty easily. And the reason I think that is because I've said this all season. I said it all season. The Dolphins' offense is a great offense, but every time it comes against a great defense, like the Ravens, it falters. They can barely put up 20 points. This Ravens defense is going to take care of this Dolphins offense. You can bet on that. Another one I'm watching, Colts Raiders. Colts really, really need this to stay in the playoff hunt and to stay in the AFC South contention. The Jaguars, just like the Eagles, even worse than the Eagles, they are leaving the door wide open. They are leaving the door wide open for the Texans or the Colts. And the Texans might be getting CJ Stroud back, which is not good news for the Colts because the Texans are ahead of the Colts right now. So the Colts really, really need this game, and the Raiders are playing very tough football. Very tough football. Aiden O'Connell is playing pretty well. They still got a pretty good team out there. The Raiders are playing very tough. This is not an easy win for the Colts, and they really, really need this win. And the last matchup I'm really watching is Saints-Buccaneers. I believe if the Buccaneers win this, they win the division. Just like if the Ravens beat the Dolphins, they secure the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think the Buccaneers do win this, but the Saints really, really need this. Not only do they need this, and they need the Buccaneers to lose next week, which I don't know if that's completely going to happen, but the Saints really, really, really need this. It's in Tampa, from what I can tell. So I think the Buccaneers win this, but keep your eye on this because this is going to be a fun NFC South matchup. And that's it for the NFL. Tell me what I missed. Tell me what I need to know in my socials again. Description or the house cleaning will be at the end of the show. Now, college football, bowl game season, baby. Bowl games are heating up. Obviously, there's been bowl games being played, but the ones with the big names are coming up this weekend, coming up this week. I watched the Oklahoma State Texas A&M game last night, and I want to tell y'all something. I don't care about bowl games. I don't care about bowl games. I think it's stupid. I think that a solid and valid college football playoffs will replace the bowl games in an instant. They're just a bunch of sponsored. It's not even the Texas A&M Oklahoma State game was the Texaco Texas bowl game. It was ridiculous. But I don't care about bowl games, especially not with players opting out. But what I do care about is the SEC's record in bowl games. Why? I get told all the time. And before I go on, I'm a Tennessee fan. I am a Tennessee fan. That should be obvious. Stated it multiple times on all of my social medias. I'm a Titans, Grizzlies, Vols, and Predators fan. Unfortunate name. I'm a Vols fan, so that makes me an SEC fan. However, I'm sick of the overrating of the SEC. It's the strongest, most dominant conference. No. It's got Alabama and Georgia and a bunch of guys. LSU was okay this year, but other than that, it was a bunch of guys. Ole Miss was not good enough to be ranked in the top 15. They just weren't. And if they were, it was like 14 or 15. Right? Missouri was not good enough to be ranked top 10. It is Alabama, Georgia, and a bunch of guys. And the reason I'm focusing on their record is because I get told that the second tier of SEC teams, the ones that come after your Georgias, your Bamas, your LSUs, those teams would run every other conference. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on the record. And a lot of people say, Jack, that's not fair. That's not fair. Some SEC teams will go against the champions of other conferences. That's not fair. A lot of the guys are going to sit out. That's not fair. A lot of the other teams' guys are going to sit out as well. And like I said, I get told all the time, the SEC is the most dominant conference. Every team in that conference would run every other conference in the nation. So that means you should dominate bowl games. That's just, I didn't put you there. You put you there. You put you there. And right now you're 0-1 because Oklahoma State beat the dog shit out of Texas A&M last night. I don't want to say that. I do want to say that. Oklahoma State beat the dog shit out of Texas A&M last night. So you are 0-1, and we'll see where you go from here. But outside of that, let's talk college football playoffs. Michigan and Alabama in the Rose Bowl. By the way, have you seen Michigan's helmets for the Rose Bowl? They are so clean. They are so clean. I reposted on TikTok. Again, description at the end of the show. I reposted it on TikTok. They are so dope. They are so cool. Let's talk about this. I believe this is going to be a low-scoring defensive matchup. That's not a hot take. Both teams don't have great offenses. Both teams have great defenses. And the stories, what will Jalen Milroe be against that Michigan defense? What can J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum do against that Alabama defense? It's going to be very interesting. And one thing to look out for, Michigan loves to run the football, loves to run with Blake Corum and their group of running backs. And Bama is ranked 29th in rushing defense. 29th, barely top 30. It's not great. It's not great. Blake Corum gets going, it's going to be very difficult to stop this Michigan offense. That being said, the Michigan offense is ranked 68th in total offense. 68th going against a great Alabama defense. It's not great. It's not great. Now, Michigan does have a top 3 defense in college football against Bama's not so great offense. It's pretty much Jalen Milroe pulling stuff out of his rear end, and that's about it. So it's going to be fun. Like I said, it's going to be low scoring, mostly defense, but I have Michigan winning this 24-20, moving on to the national championship. Now, the other matchup I don't think is as interesting. Texas and Washington. And what have I said about Washington all season? On paper, Washington's defense does not look great. But situationally, this Washington defense is a good defense. This Washington defense shows up when Washington needs them the most. And another thing you have to look out for, Texas does not have the secondary to keep up with Washington's passing attack. They are 94th in passing yards allowed. 94th in passing yards allowed. That is ridiculous. That is awful, especially when you're going against Michael Penix Jr., Romeo Odunze, and it's not just Romeo Odunze. They got guys all over that offense, and not only can they pass the football, they showed against Oregon they can run it as well, and they can run it very well. I think that this is going to be high scoring. I don't think it's going to be entirely interesting, but I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm predicting Washington to win this 42-33. And hey, in my predictions, there's no blowouts in either college football playoff game, which that's what we can ask for, right? Jack, aren't you defending? I don't know. I don't think I was on a podcast talking about Florida State. Maybe I was talking about how Florida State got left out of the college football playoffs. Definitely made a couple TikToks about it. Don't recall if I was able to make a podcast about it, but if you want my opinions on that, just look up Jackie Boy Sports Florida State and you should be able to find it. But no blowouts. Washington's going to beat Texas by 9 and Michigan's going to beat Bama by 4 in my rankings or in my whatever, both single digits. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And that is the show. Jackie's Got a Sports Show. I appreciate you for tuning into this sports show. And if you want more of me, follow me on TikTok. I'm most active on there, trying to make a couple videos a day. Jackie Boy Sports. Follow me on Twitter at JJester615 and follow the show's Twitter at Jackie's Show. That is one little s, one small s in the middle. Email me, questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want. OldJackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. That is OldJackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. OLE JackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. And video version is always on YouTube. Going to try to get more into the editing space. Being that I won't be doing a daily show, I'm going to try my hardest to properly edit these because I really want to do that. I really want to put out good products, make some graphics and such. And in this new year, I want to make YouTube videos, some about wrestling, some about football, whatever I'm feeling like. I kind of lost my editor that would do that for me, which sucks. But that just means I got to learn. So I'm going to do that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Follow all the social medias, and I will see y'all Tuesday. Tuesday at the latest, and Tuesday and Thursday next week. That is the schedule, and I will post on Twitter if that changes at all. Love y'all. I will see y'all then. Follow the socials. Peace.